Hello people, welcome back. Welcome back to UCL This Week. But how are you? How did your team fare this week, whether they were in the Champions League or otherwise? My team, we'll of course get to that. Other than that, Montreal already set a record for the earliest minus 20 Celsius day since 2008. We're getting a little snowstorm here. I miss the sun. I'll be a nice porcelain white in no time here. But without further ado, let's get into the football. And as always, say it with me now, you can catch the Champions League on DAZN in select territories, even in Spanish in the USA. Use my link below if you're interested, okay? Inter versus Liverpool. This one was a little bit of a cure for insomnia, to be honest, but they can't all be bangers, and this couldn't have surprised anyone, right? Inter, not at their absolute strongest, that's for sure. We'll get into more of that later. And we all know how Liverpool's season has gone so far, especially with the Salah distraction drama in the background, players getting asked about it. But that said, Liverpool looked pretty decent playing away to Inter. In fact, they could have had the lead in the first half if not for a frustrating goal cancellation. Van Dijk heads it off of Ekitike's arm from a few inches away, and Konate, he finishes it off. It took like 5 to 8 minutes for them to decide whether it was a goal or not, which speaks to how difficult a call it was. I get it, his arm is away from his body, but it doesn't feel right to cancel that goal for that, you know? Then the other topic that dominated, the penalty that Liverpool did receive, not the hardest tug from Bastoni on Florian Wirtz. You know, it's not Chiellini on Saka levels at all, but what I always say, I gotta stay consistent with, even though I don't like this penalty at all. When you grab someone's shirt, you are forcing a decision to be made. You're forcing the referee to make a judgment call, and this ref went with penalty. I don't like it, but I get it. You know, it's one of those penalties that you hate to see because it's a small, insignificant tug. Wirtz hurls himself to the ground when he probably wasn't even getting to the ball anyway, so it's incredibly soft. But in saying that, it also makes it all the more mystifying as to why Bastoni bothered to grab his shirt, you know? Second nature, I guess. More of a sell from Wirtz than anything, but, you know, it was sponsored by Bastoni's grab. Even Van Dijk and Robertson said it was soft. Robertson said it pretty much explicitly. Van Dijk said, let's just say the referee gave it. But the goal taken away factors in here as well. Just goes to show how unknown the handball rule is these days, from referee to pundit to former referee. They don't know. You see former referees tripping up over themselves trying to explain it depending on how the call goes. So super annoying to lose in that way if you're an Inter supporter, or Inter themselves. Liverpool would argue it's super annoying to have a goal disallowed in the fashion that they did, but based on the general run of play, I'd say that Liverpool were deserving winners in my eyes. Inter with a very poor performance at home, not doing enough to get a point. And this was the first time Liverpool have won an away UCL match without Mo Salah since 2009. Remember, they weren't there very often from then through the 2010s. And so yes, commiserations to Inter. They suffered their second loss of this UCL campaign in their second match in a row. A bit concerning for Inter supporters, I would think, as when they come up against the big teams this season, they are losing. Lost to AC Milan, lost to Juve, to Napoli as well domestically, lost to Liverpool and Atleti in the Champions League. That's got to be a worry given how, yes, it's great to beat up on the Kairats and the Ajaxes and Slavia Pragues and Hellas Veronas of the world. And it's great to just be 1 point off of the lead in Serie A and still amongst the best in the Champions League. But as a big club, you are in this moment failing against your peers. So that is something to watch this season. Atalanta, so Chelsea go away to Bergamo and lose to Atalanta. I believe I've mentioned it a few times, but they are absolutely a team to watch now that Raffaele Palladino is in charge of them. And this actually marked the first time since 2013 that Chelsea scored first in a UCL match and then lost. Unfortunate for them, but a deserved win for Atalanta based on the effort in the second half. That said, it required a huge save right at the end of that match to keep it at 2-1 for Atalanta to see out that win. João Pedro with a nice goal in the first half, of course set up by Reece James, who was just playing out of his mind this season. Play him anywhere on the pitch and he will excel, it seems. But in the second half, Charles de Catalara sets up the equalizer for Scamacca and scores the second himself. Cucurella may be disappointed with how he defended that one, just a little bit, by his own super high standards. Chelsea continued to be one of the weirdest, most difficult teams to predict at this time because when they seem to be up and running, they then go on a run of poor results. And I know some Chelsea supporters point to Maresca as being at fault for this one. And of course, as the manager, he is culpable. One of the big mystifying calls being that Estevan and even Andre Santos never saw the pitch. He said that he didn't come on because of the injury to Fofana, but there were already like 5 defenders out there just scrambled all over the pitch, namely in the midfield. Maybe he was also looking ahead to Everton, which is an important match in the Premier League. Everton are just 1 point behind them. Sneaky Everton. But Chelsea still have a relatively healthy position in the Champions League table as well. 10 points, just 2 from the top 8 as things stand. But I think the game management from Maresca is a bit baffling, is, worthy of critique. Once they were at 1-1, they remove Enzo Fernandez and bring on Malo Gusto to play as a 10. I mean, he's a good player, of course, but played in a midfield with Reece James, with Ashiampong out there already, Cucurella out there. You see what I'm saying? That's enough fullbacks for 2 separate starting lineups. They could have used Andre Santos as the 10. Even Estevan played centrally to continue the threat going forward for Chelsea when they're at 1-1. So it does feel like Maresca was giving this match to Atalanta. I think he has blood on his hands here, but it likely won't be fatal. They should be fine for qualification to the next round, though I'm sure these 3 points, even a point, would have been nice to potentially avoid or help avoid the playoff, right? Who wants to play an extra round? Barcelona, Frankfurt at the Camp Nou brings back memories of when Eintracht Frankfurt played at the Camp Nou in the Europa League a few years ago, and the ticketing situation was out of control. Seemed like more Frankfurt supporters than Barcelona supporters at that time, as Barcelona members were selling their tickets to Eintracht Frankfurt supporters. That happened again this time. This time wasn't without its issues with the Frankfurt supporters, which is not a surprise. Their traveling support are considered amongst some of the most ill-behaved, some of the worst, some of the biggest troublemakers in Germany. Maybe you saw this video of them right behind the home supporters, which is kind of silly from Barcelona to place them there. Put them elsewhere if you can. Maybe there isn't an option given that the stadium is under construction, but if the stadium isn't ready, I don't know. Anyway, absolute idiots in the away support, throwing stuff at the home supporters all match long, beer, lighters, everything, banging the entire time. Saw people calling this the Camp Zoo. And I get that based on how they were performing and behind the glass. As for the match itself, Barcelona versus a Frankfurt team that cannot defend to save their lives. 28-4 and 29 against in the Bundesliga, 8-4 and 16 against in the Champions League now. And yet they were leading from just 1 shot on target after the first half, completely against the run of play. 1 of 2 attempts, I believe. But Barcelona surged in the second half after bringing on Marcus Rashford. He made a big difference. Koundé getting the 2 goals, unexpected, stunning diving header from Rashford's cross. Then just a few minutes later, Yamal with the cross to Koundé. Crossing merchants, eh? Absolute crossing merchants. I kid, of course. That would be it there, though. Despite Frankfurt causing issues throughout for Barcelona's backline. But if you're Barca, all that matters is the 3 points here. They absolutely needed that. So what else? Bayern defeated Sporting, which comes as no real surprise at all, especially playing at the Allianz Arena, because as good as Sporting are, which they are good, Bayern are one of the best teams on the continent, and there was an absolute forest fire in their stadium. Holy. Leonard Carl became the youngest ever to score in 3 consecutive UCL matches against Brugge, Arsenal, and now Sporting. My God, what a wand of a left foot this kid has. Even his disallowed goal was so cleanly and classily executed. Just pick your spot, finesse it there. Choose a corner, put it there. All of that said, Sporting, hang on for a while. Rui Silva, a busy man. Sporting having chances of their own. They actually led first, but goals felt inevitable for Bayern. 3-1. Another great performance from Serge Gnabry and the return of Alphonso Davies. You gotta love that, especially if you're a Bayern or Canada supporter. Simmons starting to find himself a bit at Tottenham now as they defeat Slavia 3-0. He had that great performance against Brentford and followed that up with another pretty strong one against Slavia Praha here, a goal from the penalty spot, 3-0. It's good to see Heung-min Son getting honored prior to the match. We also had Olympiacos getting an away win against Kairat, 1-0. So Olympiacos, after a couple of close matches, finally have their first win of the campaign. There was a 6-pointer between Galatasaray and AS Monaco, in which AS Monaco got the win. They're undefeated in their last 5 Champions League matches. They're now level with Gala on points. They face Real Madrid next in January. We'll see what kind of shape both teams are in at that point. Atletico Madrid lost their previous 2 matches coming into this, both in La Liga, by the way, and both away, which is where they really are struggling this season. So to go to Eindhoven and win 3-2 is a big achievement for this version of Atleti. Their away record this season is now just 4 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. And Marseille win for the second match running, their third of this campaign, as they won 3-2 away to Union SG. Greenwood with a brace and Igor Paixão with the other. Aubameyang, yet another goal contribution for the old man. Another assist, 5 matches in a row with a goal contribution across all competitions for Marseille. So let's go, old man Aubameyang. This was the one, right? 2 teams needing a win. City lost to Leverkusen previously in this competition. Real Madrid did beat Olympiacos. Slim win, but have been struggling domestically. There was plenty of talk about how this match could determine Xabi Alonso's fate, right? Obviously, at the time of recording this, there's no news there. Editor Adrian will have my back if that changes. Now, Rodrigo did end up scoring. He got the start, as plenty of injuries are in the squad, including Mbappe. So there was Rodrigo on the right, Vini on the left mostly, Garcia through the middle, though Vini would at times come up through the middle as well. But City ultimately claw their way back in for a win. First, Nico O'Reilly cleaning up the litter in the box, then Haaland scoring from the spot after Rudiger got a little too passionate with his wrestling. You know, he loves having a wrestle with Haaland. He loves that. Haaland with 51 goals in his 50th UCL start, 55 and 54 appearances overall, including substitutions. Guardiola with his 14th win against Real Madrid in 28 matches. Now, stats out of the way. I feel for Xabi Alonso because it does feel like he lost control of the players, but I don't really blame him for it. Like, he has apparently conceded a few things for the players that the players didn't like about his coaching style. He's given in to Vinicius and started him every single game since the story came out that Vini wouldn't renew so long as his relationship with Xabi doesn't improve. Vinicius, by the way, 2 assists, 0 goals in his last 12 matches. Just take that into consideration, as I know he provides in other ways. He does provide other values. But if you're asking for the biggest contract since Cristiano Ronaldo, we got to see more than that, man. Come on. If you're going to complain about playing time and getting substituted when you aren't contributing that much, we got to see more than that. No? Am I crazy for thinking that? Am I being unfair? And yet, you have to wonder if Xabi will survive any of this, where no, he has absolutely not been perfect, that's for sure. But he also allegedly, if the rumors are true, is faced with a squad of guys who are going to make his life even more difficult because even though they aren't playing well, there are stories about how unhappy they are. Not just Vinicius, other guys as well. Who is at the heart of these stories? I don't know. And it's not all of the players, obviously, but it's interesting seeing this sort of play out before our eyes, sort of the tearing down of Xabi. And I know this is a coincidence as there aren't a ton of similarities between Xabi Alonso and Rafa Benitez. Weren't expecting that, were you? But these are the 2 guys who succeeded Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid, and both of them were faced with a similar situation in which the players allegedly don't buy into their vision. There's a disconnect, and the manager gets the sack around December, January. And if that happens here, I feel for Xabi in a sense, clearly managing Real Madrid and managing the egos and the personalities. Someone like Vinicius, if you do anything other than let them play the full 90, is going to cause you problems. You can't treat him as you would any other player. He isn't any other player. He's a special player, but his overall play isn't special at the moment. And yet it's easier to sack Xabi than it is to sell off the players that are not buying into his way of doing things. It's a very unfortunate situation for him. So we'll see. Elsewhere, we had Arsenal beating Club Brugge. Arsenal with a backline of White, Norgard, Hincapié, and Lewis Skelly. And yes, of course, they still got a clean sheet. Their record of just 1 goal conceded still stands in the Champions League with their 3-0 win. Big credit to David Raya as well, though. Huge performance from him to get that clean sheet. He really earned that clean sheet. But what I found interesting from this match was how Noni Madueke is starting to become one of their best signings from the summer. Well, he already was a very good signing, but one of their most important signings now. Everyone said that a striker could put Arsenal over the top, that this was what they were missing to win things. But Madueke comes in for Bukayo Saka. Saka finally has a worthy backup on the right side, and Madueke proves how important that is. First off, the goal he scored, the first one, shrugging off a player, beating a couple of other players, then unleashing that disgusting strike off the bar and in. sick. You guys know how I feel about strikes that hit the bar and go straight down into the goal. Oh, but in Madueke, they have someone who can start for their national team, for England, as the backup for the starter for England. You see what I mean here? He and guys like Eze, as well as all of the depth they added in the back line, have flipped this narrative of, oh, Arsenal need a striker to win things finally, to now emphasizing the importance of a backup to Saka and backups to their center backs of Saliba and Gabriel. Another win for Arsenal, 6 from 6, rolling on. Earlier in the day, Ajax went away to Karabag, and despite trailing for a long time, they bounced back. They won 4-2. Great to see Ajax get their first win and no longer be the worst team in the Champions League. We wish them well. That honor now falls to Kairat, which probably surprises nobody, as well as Villarreal, which is a surprise, actually. They lost 3-2 to Copenhagen at home, which was a surprise once again. Athletic Club held PSG to a 0-0. They really had to weather a storm, but weather it they did. 28% possession in their own stadium. Tough watch for their fans at times, I'm sure, but hey, that's a great result against the defending champions. Leverkusen, they left it late to tie Newcastle United. Newcastle's so close to another great result in Europe as they continue to impress me. They'll feel they gave the 2 points away though. Not a great ending to this one with who else but Grimaldo getting the equalizer. Kasper Hjulmand's Leverkusen unbeaten in 3 UCL matches now. Benfica defeat Napoli. Oh my God. I mean, I knew it was a possibility given this is an Antonio Conte team in Europe. So there's always a chance that they perform poorly. But I'm just a little jaded in the Champions League with Benfica. So I was happy to see this. Richard Rios with the goal. He's getting better and better. And then he set up Barreiro. Barreiro is maybe not good enough for Benfica for some people, but I can't help but like the guy. He's such a Mourinho player. And just like that, Benfica is in the fight to advance. Next up, they play Juventus, then Real Madrid. Benfica had a really hard draw, didn't they? Man. Bodo Glimt get a draw away to Borussia Dortmund, their 3rd draw of the campaign. Twice Dortmund lead at home. Twice they lost that lead. Glass half full, Brandt scoring in consecutive matches. That's nice. And Juve, they beat Paphos 2-0 thanks to 2 goals in 5 minutes. 1 for McKennie, 1 for David, an American and a Canadian. Team North America, well, 2/3 of Team North America, I guess, technically. So Arsenal still lead with Bayern, their closest rivals, on 15 points, 3 behind them. 12 points gets you in the top 8, almost for Liverpool. As you can see, they're on 12 in 9th, which of course, the top 8 gets you a bye. You don't have to play that playoff round. And 7 points is the cutoff to get into the top 24. FC Copenhagen currently sitting in 24th, but Napoli is also only on 7 points. Imagine they don't make it. Yikes, would not be kind to Conte. And for the bottom 3rd, Benfica is knocking on the door of qualification, while as mentioned, we have a new basement boy in Kairat Almaty. If we're talking top scorers, Mbappe still leads despite not playing, but welcome to Gabriel Martinelli into the top 5. And for assists, as mentioned, Old Man Oba leads the way there with 4, but Olise and Yildiz are making ground on him. All right, guys, that's all for this week and for another week of content with you guys. As always, thank you for watching. I'll have another video for you soon, Monday or Tuesday. I'll say Tuesday to not get your hopes up just in case. Sounds good? Thanks, guys. Love ya.